Assalamualaikum my dear students. Once again welcome to my YouTube channel by the name MS Lectures, and today on this platform I would be explaining to you the very important topic of the biochemistry, which is known as the metabolic acidosis and its causes. So first of all we have to you can say understand the mechanism that how the metabolic acidosis process occurs. So talking about what happens that there is the you can say dissociation of the carbonic acid H2CO3. So H2CO3 actually dissociates into the bicarbonate ions and hydrogen ions in our body like this. H2CO3 dissociates into the HCO3 plus hydrogen atoms. So what happens in metabolic acidosis? The concentration of the hydrogen bicarbonate ions decreases and the concentration of the hydrogen ions increases. So how this process occurs, we will go into the complete detail. So talking about the causes. Talking about the causes, what are the causes? First of all, the first cause is the diabetes mellitus. So diabetes mellitus is the major contributing factor in causing the metabolic acidosis. So diabetes mellitus. So how does diabetes mellitus cause the metabolic acidosis? So if you talk about the diabetes mellitus, what happens that normally insulin actually pumps the potassium ions from the blood into the cells, but in the case of the diabetes mellitus, the insulin is lacking. Insulin is lacking, so the amount of potassium ions which is normally are pumped into the cells, or which are normally transferred into the cells from the blood, would not occur. So what would happen, there would be the deficiency of the potassium ions into the cells, and there would be, you can say, increased level of the potassium ion into the blood. So what would happen that kidneys would excrete this excessive potassium ion in the blood into the tubular lumen and then ultimately into the urine. And you should need to keep this point, this is a very important point to keep in mind, that kidneys actually operate into the give and take mechanism. Like if they are excreting the potassium ions into the tubular lumen and into the urine ultimately, so they would be conserving the hydrogen ion as well. So what would happen that the potassium ions would be excreted into the tubular lumen, ultimately into the urine, and in turn what would happen that kidneys would conserve the hydrogen ions. Let's have a look at here. So diabetes mellitus like this. So what would happen that this is the you can say tubular lumen of the kidneys, and this is the, you can say, blood. So normally the potassium ions, in the case of the diabetes mellitus, the potassium ions in the blood would be high. So kidneys would you can say transfer or transport this potassium ions into the tubular lumen. So into the tubular lumen. So potassium would be transported here into the tubular lumen and ultimately into the urine. So what would happen that in turn, what would happen that these potassium ions would lost into the urine, and in turn it would, you can say, increase the hydrogen ion gradient. It would you can say it would start to restore this hydrogen ion concentration. So what would happen ultimately? The concentration of the hydrogen ion would increase in the blood. So that's why diabetes mellitus is the major cause in causing the metabolic acidosis. Secondly, we have, in the case of the renal failure or diarrhea. In the case of the renal failure or diarrhea. So in the case of the renal failure or diarrhea, what happened that in both cases, what happens that loss of the essential electrolytes occur. So due to this loss of the essential electrolytes, there is also the loss of the loss of the bicarbonate ions occur. So now, if we talk about the renal failure or diarrhea, both are actually the contributing causes in causing the metabolic acidosis. So how this cause the metabolic acidosis? In the case of renal failure or diarrhea, essential electrolytes are being lost here. I mean that bicarbonate ions are lost during this renal failure or diarrhea. It would cause the increase of the hydrogen ion, which would cause the you can say metabolic acidosis. Now, third cause is the lactic acidosis. Lactic acidosis. So in the case of the lactic acidosis, what happened that the concentration of the lactic acid would increase in the blood, and it would ultimately lead to the formation of the metabolic acidosis. And then utilization in the buffering action. Utilization in buffering action. Buffering action. So if we talk about the utilization in the buffering action, so we know that bicarbonate ions are involved in maintaining the buffering action of the blood. It has to maintain the buffer, which is the nearly alkaline in the blood. So it has to maintain this buffer. So some concentration of the bicarbonate ions are being utilized in forming the buffer action. So that's why the concentration of bicarbonate ions can get low, and it can lead to the formation of the metabolic acidosis. So I explained you the 4 causes of the metabolic acidosis and hope you have understood it well. Last but not the least, don't forget to subscribe my MS lectures. Thank you.